Good morning. We're happy to have you here today for Accelerate Your Cloud Migration for Financial Services with PagerDuty. My name is Joe Pusateri. I'm a solution architect with PagerDuty. I've been here for about 4.5 years. My background is in development, integrations, post-sales, and now solution consulting. And as a partner solution architect with PagerDuty, I'm more particularly aligned to AWS. So let's get started. Today's consumers are managing their financial lives digitally from their mobile devices. We bank, we trade, we make payments on the go. We expect these experiences to be uninterrupted and always available. I mean, we're talking about our money here, so it has to be perfect every time. So when something breaks, a minute is all you have. It takes less than a minute of downtime to send consumers looking for other options. But the majority of the time, it takes between 6 minutes to an hour to resolve an incident. Every time there's an incident, you're at risk of losing your customers and potentially millions in revenue. You need to think about how to streamline your incident response with modern approaches to identify, resolve, and ultimately prevent critical incidents so that your customers have that always-on experience that they expect and demand. Today, people of all ages and demographics are consuming experiences digitally. This has had a huge impact on how organizations innovate, engage, and interact with their customers. These new technologies are helping companies to create incredible new experiences for their customers, to empower and enable their employees, and innovate in ways that they wouldn't have imagined just a few years ago. Every industry and every geography and companies of all sizes are part of this digital transformation. Financial institutions have a greater need to exceed customers' expectations and provide uninterrupted services securely. And there are some unicorns in the industry who have added more pressure on established brands by setting a high bar with amazing digital experiences and brand promise. So the financial sector is actually now leading transformation with adopting new technologies and modern practices like DevOps and Agile. CIOs view DevOps as a way to bring more value to their customers in safer and efficient ways. It helps them to address compliance, security, risk, and governance strategies. And as the push to migrate to the cloud intensifies, new technologies are needed to manage your applications. There's a need to rethink incident response. Centralized approaches just don't cut it anymore. They're inefficient. They waste precious time and delay incident resolution, which hurts your brand and your customer loyalty. In order to get that always-on experience, you need to get proactive, to get ahead of issues, instead of just fixing things after they break. These new ways of working, incorporating new technologies, automation, and empowering people to drive change and make smarter and faster decisions for the business and for your customers is what is going to enable you to become competitive and innovative. So what are the trends that are driving this change? Financial institutions have been feeling the crunch of consumer demands. As physical locations become less and less relevant, consumers want to manage their financial lives digitally, in real time, from anywhere. This means banking, trading, retirement planning, you name it. And this has created a huge opportunity for a few newcomers to give consumers exactly what they've asked for. These innovative companies have funding, nimble teams, and the excitement of something new. And they delivered. Established brands found themselves at a crossroads. CIOs have had to start planning for digital transformation in order to not only survive, but to thrive. Financial organizations in general have low risk tolerance and are highly regulated. The move to the cloud brings flexibility and cost savings, but also it raises some challenges, right? In the cloud, everything moves faster. There are more moving parts. There are different security perimeters. And as you transition to microservices, that just makes everything worse. It multiplies those problems. You have to create clear ownership and accountability. It also means rethinking incident response and moving away from the central IT model and adopting a hybrid approach. Now, we've all seen this. Chaotic incident response with a ton of people being added to Zoom meetings over and over as time goes by. Historically, the answer was to just throw people at the problem when something breaks in order to find an expert. And that wastes time. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. Without foundational service ownership mappings, incident management becomes chaos. Unless we give responders the tools they need to answer the most basic questions at 3 o'clock in the morning when they wake up. Number one, what's broken? What's the underlying piece of technical infrastructure that's having an issue or alerting? 2, who's responsible? Who is the service owner that is able to make a fix? And 3, what's the impact? And it's very important because the impact on other technical services or other teams, or the ultimate impact on your brand, your business, your customers. Zoom calls like you see here attempt to answer these questions in a reactive manner when seconds count. $2.5 million a year. This is just an average cost, but it could be much higher, especially for financial institutions where downtime can impact millions of customers and millions in revenue. You know, there are a lot of products that can be used in digital transformation, DevOps, hybrid ops, and cloud migration. However, PagerDuty really brings this all together for our customers. We facilitate and drive organizations to develop a more mature incident response process by making it easier to incorporate and take advantage of best practices. As we said at the beginning, it's all about delivering an always-on experience for your customers. For example, Equifax values the improved operational efficiencies provided with PagerDuty by automating the tedious manual process of finding the right runbooks to find out who to even call, to the tune of over $1 million and almost 20,000 hours of labor. Now they can go that much faster. The benefits of PagerDuty can be enormous when you consider the cost of business disruptions. So, when we're talking about incident response, let's understand how PagerDuty helps. The first part is this practice of having a centralized team look at, triage, and categorize every alert that comes in. The solution that removes this bottleneck is to empower your teams with service ownership. This means the same people who write the code, ship it, and own it in production. Rather than having a central team manage and triage everything that's coming in, the signals go straight to the service owners. They're the ones who understand the data that's coming from the monitoring tools and the rest of the tech stack. They're the ones who know what needs to be fixed, know what's changed recently too. They have to do this before big problems happen, and they're the right people to get on the incident immediately. This dramatically reduces the amount of time it takes to get from a signal to a resolution. Rather than hours to identify the cause and the required fix, you're able to do it potentially in minutes. It also helps to eliminate many problems altogether. The fact that people writing the code own it and ship it and own it in production means that they tend to write higher quality code. It also means that they have shorter feedback loops with the customers because they get to see how it's used in the wild and the challenges that arise from it. It creates a learning culture. Now, I can caveat all of these potential upsides in this solution with the fact that it relies on a lot of trust, and that's a culture change too. There's trust that your people will be accountable when the time comes, and trust that they'll be there when they get the call. So by configuring AWS services to send alarm notifications rather than to people or groups of people, to send them instead to PagerDuty plugs you into a better incident management process. Using schedules and escalations, noise reduction, and automation, PagerDuty can own the issue at the center. And as you work your incident, you often have to update other systems, like ServiceNow or Jira. PagerDuty can do that automatically for you, allowing those systems users to work where they are in order to do their job and communicate bidirectionally without having to go into both systems. Now they don't have to do that double duty of putting things in both systems. Sorry about that. Now, in some teams, there are many issues that happen all the time, and there are runbooks or scripts that are already written to deal with that. But it's always the responsibility of the responder to figure out which runbook it is and then take those actions. For this, we can configure Amazon EventBridge to accept a trigger from PagerDuty and then launch a task or a sequence of tasks to perform diagnostics or even take remediation action on behalf of the responder. So instead of having to maintain a large number of AWS accounts with the right level of access, we can instead allow PagerDuty to securely push that event to EventBridge and take the appropriate action, like running Lambda functions or S3 or EC2 API calls. We can do things like scale an instance or make a backup copy or pull statistics from an EC2 instance that you're worried about. If you place PagerDuty at the center, you can orchestrate the correct response in all situations. And integrated into the other systems that are part of your incident management process, whether it's on-prem or in AWS, PagerDuty can then accelerate your migration to the cloud. So let's talk about where in the process PagerDuty reduces the incident response time, or resolution time, excuse me. An inefficient incident response may slow you down, and it will. It could take multiple hours to even address an issue. But with just PagerDuty, you can already achieve dramatic efficiencies in, number one, mobilizing teams to work on the issues, which allows you to pinpoint the right people, as well as in triaging issues, because we help you to find out what's going on around it. What else has happened? Has this happened before? And we're also reducing the ingested volume, that height of that, the timeline, because we're incorporating our event management capabilities for duplicates, for things that have happened before. The automation inherent in PagerDuty also drives down resolution time later in the process. Our analytics features, as well as postmortems, help you to understand where to invest in order to prevent issues or reduce the amount of time it takes in the future. So the time savings from just that first line to the second line is already pretty dramatic. But with PagerDuty and Amazon EventBridge, you really gain the benefits of supercharging those last two actions. PagerDuty lets responders immediately invoke both diagnostic and, thinking, say, how much disk space, memory usage, whether the ports are open or not, or remediation activities, whether it's scaling up or restarting a service to deal with emergent behavior. Collecting basic diagnostic information saves time and makes triaging easier, right? First-line staff aren't always going to know how to do that, where to go, what to run, right, in order to get that. And the stuff that you can collect easily may be what identifies it to that SME as, oh, this is a repeated issue. It's easy. We know what to do for this. And then being able to take action even before you notify your team could resolve the issue and reduce the interruptions in the first place. So the number of incidents that you'd have to deal with would be reduced there also. Automating with EventBridge can help you quickly eliminate scenarios that have previously been seen and help you to begin to standardize your incident response process, since you'll know what's been tried and what the results were every time. And so lastly, let's zoom out a little bit to see the big picture. Again, PagerDuty sits at the center. The left side of the diagram represents the signal noise I mentioned. These are examples of the tools that power your digital operations. Each one gives rich telemetry data about your environment, but every one of these does it through its own lens, through its own silo, so it's not the full picture. PagerDuty ingests and contextualizes these signals, leveraging machine learning to filter out the noise and orchestrate the right response, whether it's automation through EventBridge or PagerDuty's Rundeck engine, or human response, or maybe a combination of both. And when that response requires a team, PagerDuty can communicate where your responders are in tools like Slack, Zoom, and Teams. And with bidirectional integration to your ITSM tools, we ensure that your system of record has real-time updates of response data too. All of this is enabled through our three foundational capabilities. Number one is the API engine. It's often viewed as our strongest differentiator. We can quickly integrate into the most complex homegrown environments without an army of consultants. And we offer over 600 out-of-the-box integrations as well. Number two is our incident response data set. We've been gathering that over 13 years and more than 13,000 customers, which feeds our machine learning engine. And lastly, our service-based architecture. This instantly identifies the impacted technical and business services and the applicable service owners. So to make it simple, bottom line, PagerDuty empowers the full ROI of your tool stack by translating the telemetry that they generate into the appropriate action to take, which is what we would do anyway. This happens in real time, when seconds matter. Let me switch over to the demo here. So let's imagine that there's an online bank experiencing an incident where direct deposits are not showing up in the application users' account histories. This is impacting a large group of customers and creating a lot of anxiety for them. They want it fixed right away, because this type of issue can quickly erode trust and send customers going elsewhere. Not only does it need to be fixed right away, but ensuring that it won't happen again is critical for regaining that trust and keeping those customers. So let's dig into what happens. Typically, an incident response process will kick off when an anomalous delay is detected in Amazon and a new alert is sent to PagerDuty. When that comes through, PagerDuty will be able to notify the right team. So when it comes through, it'll figure out which service it's going to, find out who's on call, and be able to reach out to each individual that is on call that it needs to reach through 3 different methods. It sends an SMS text message, it makes a phone call to that person, and will send a push to the PagerDuty app on your phone. So every phone is now a pager. All right, I see it coming now. Phone is ringing. It's going to send a text, and here is the incident that came through. So here I've set up multiple phones. I may have my desk phone, I may have my cell phone, I may have my home phone. SMS text messaging may go to multiple phones as well. Different email addresses, and then multiple devices that you may log into, whether it's your tablet or your phone or whatever. And then when it comes time to orchestrate it, this is really good for individuals who want to be able to manage their own on-call experience. I want to be called on this phone, then I want to, if I don't do anything with it after that, text me on that phone, and then send a push to my app, and then if I don't do anything for another few minutes, right, there's a fall through so that I get it in the sequence that I want, and it gives me that power back a little bit as an on-call person to describe exactly how I want to be notified. But once I get it, the next thing to do is to stop those notifications from coming. I want to accept responsibility for it as an on-call person and start working on it, in which case I would want to acknowledge it. All right, look at that. 1 in a row. So as this has come in, right, I'm going to get a phone call for every new incident that's going to come in. I don't want that. PagerDuty can instead take those events that all belong to the same incident, right? Every time that it's detected, the monitoring systems are going to be sending in another alert. And then maybe 5 minutes later, another alert. And then 5 minutes later, another alert. And it's such a pain to get interrupted every time that there's the same problem that you're already working on. By acknowledging it and having PagerDuty use its event management capabilities, you can see I've got 10 alerts down here that have all been grouped together. Now, I've got one alert with history. So as I look at this, I now know, number one, it's still going on, and then I can dig into the individual details of each one and say, well, what happened here? Where's this is the CloudWatch information that I received that started the whole thing, okay? So I have a lot of information already. But that's not everything, right? What's the first thing you would want to do once you find out the EC2 instance has got a problem? I'm going to want to do some triaging, right? I want to go, maybe I need to go SSH over. But what if I'm not at my house? What if I'm not at my laptop? You know, using the mobile app, which I would like to show, I can actually push an event to EventBridge and have EventBridge go run a script that I can that will actually do that work for me. So I can do this run diagnostics. That diagnostics is going to go run, and then it's going to go push it back into the notes. You see the notes just appeared on the right-hand side with the results of a Lambda function that went and ran and did a bunch of work on that EC2 instance. That happened without me leaving PagerDuty, right? What else would I want to know? Well, how long has this been going on? Has this happened before? These are questions that I really need to know the answer to. Well, down low here, I can see there's the past incidents. Past incidents is going to give me information on how often has this been happening, right? Notice that it's happened a few times this week, a few times a month ago, and maybe a month and a half ago it happened again. This is really important and good information. What if this only happened on Monday morning, right? That would give me an idea of kind of maybe there's some bad interactions going on. And the other really important part of this is over here. This tells me for all of the for all of the incidents that have run in the past, 8 minutes is the median time it took to resolve. That gives me an idea how big it is, right? If this were 8 hours or 12 hours, or maybe 10 seconds, maybe it's auto-resolving. So this gives me, right off the bat, how much time it's going to take for me to work on this. And in the old days, we were able to say, stand up in your cube and say, hey, is anybody else having a problem with the internet, for example, or whatever the service happens to be? We can't do that anymore. We haven't done that for a couple years at least. Related incidents gives me the ability to look at and find what else is happening in our environment. What other services are having trouble right now that may be impacting this issue that I have? So PagerDuty is bubbled up. There's a database problem. The RDS is having some trouble. Memory's too high, right? Not working the way we expect it to. Now we're getting some fingers pointing at the database a little bit. How do we know that these are related? How does PagerDuty know that the database is upstream of my service? Well, with our newly released service graph, we can see that our service, the account history service, is actually downstream of 3 other services. And you can see that it's marked red because there's an impacting incident. And now we see the database service has got another impacting incident. I bet you that's where we're going to be looking next, right? This is a great way for us to visually see where the problems might lie. So as we find out where the problems live, right, that's really important information. We also are able, through our CI/CD pipeline, maybe AWS Code Deploy is sending PagerDuty whenever there's a new deployment of code. Then in the same incident pane, you get to see, you know what, recently we've actually published some new code. 80% of problems occur because of some kind of change in the environment. So that's important to know as well. And then we had seen that the notes that came back from the diagnostics said the database connection didn't work. So what do we do next? Well, we might want to bring in the database expert. I need to go communicate with them. But again, instead of going through a number of runbooks and trying to find them manually, I want to be able to use PagerDuty to call out to them like they called out to me and ask them to join this incident and answer to me, hey, did you get that fixed? Is that problem, resolved? And what you can do then is then be able to say, yeah, they got on the phone, they jumped on a conference bridge with me, and we discussed it, and they said, we're fixed. You just need to restart your service. So again, I need to reach out to that EC2 instance through SSH. Nope, I don't want to do that either. I want to go through EventBridge and push another button on that menu that says restart the account history service, and we're going to be back up and running without having to leave PagerDuty. I didn't have to go outside of PagerDuty to do any of this work. I could have done this at the ball game or out with the kids or whatever it happened to be. I didn't have to sit at my desk and do it. And the last part I would like to talk about real briefly is maybe a security incident. Rather than just a DevOps code-based problem, another use case that we often face are things like security problems. Imagine that a security problem comes through and we need to take immediate action on the network. I need to lock down the network segment. I need to put up some bars or disable access to a resource. Again, when that event comes in, PagerDuty call out to EventBridge or Rundeck and go shut that down as soon as it comes in, before a person even sees it, to be able to take action and keep people from exploiting that problem any further, and then also maybe giving them a diagnostic snapshot of what went wrong, right, and where they need to go further. We also integrate, as I said, to ServiceNow. When that incident comes in, ServiceNow is automatically going to get a parallel incident, When you say acknowledge, it's going to put my name in the assigned to in ServiceNow. The ServiceNow help desk will be able to look at it and say, oh, we're in the middle of an incident. We need to ask some questions. The notes will sync, and you'll be able to work where you are and be able to avoid having to do that double entry that we all hate. But how does this help with financial services is that you are now in compliance. What if you were to add new AWS services to your repertoire? Now I have to push all that through to ServiceNow. I don't want to have to write another integration every time. Instead, PagerDuty can do that for you. It just came back, but I'm going to wrap it up anyway. Digital transformation can especially be challenging for financial services organizations. But with the right ecosystem of partners and digital operations management set up, they can navigate those additional compliance and security regulations while delivering high availability and seamless services to your customers. PagerDuty with AWS are enabling the financial sector to shift to the cloud safely and securely while minimizing customer impact and downtime and speeding up innovation while keeping up with customer demands. Thank you very much. Visit us at booth 383.